All right, we are live. Hey, all you freedom-loving boys and girls, wherever you are, whomever you are on this big blue marble of a planet we call Earth. Mark, Centerline Systems, live from Duluth. It's Centerline Systems. Hey, gonna have. I hope you enjoy it. It's just, to me, it's gonna be a really fun show tonight. Bringing on an old friend. I'll just hang it. So we're gonna sit and talk a lot about hunting. So here in northern Minnesota, I mean, the temperatures at night are already dropping down to low 60s, high 50s. It's going to be a warm weekend this weekend, but there's already some trees turning. And I don't know if that means we're going to have a nice long autumn this year, but that is hunting season. Grouse, bow, archery, season for deer starts early, et cetera, et cetera. So going to be pretty fun. But as always, just going to give a little bit of background info here as we get going. Okay, we got Gene. Woo, here and waiting. Snowshoe checking in, ready to go. All right, boys. All right, appreciate it. Hey, so I just want to remind everybody, I'm going to do this 1 or 2 times through the show, and I'm going to show a few things off. So the last live stream we had was with Murphy, and that was a giveaway episode. And I figured out how to do chapters in YouTube and ScrewTube the other day. So I went back into that video and I broke it into chapters. So now you can, if you want to fast forward to it, and I'm going to start trying to do that with all the podcasts going forth, whether it's like a video on demand about gear. And I'm going to actually probably shoot some stuff on Friday of this week and some stuff next week, new product stuff, kind of going back and doing all the videos all over. So we're getting ready to start that. We're moving forward. We're almost done with all the existing orders. The website's closed right now. We're almost done with all the existing orders. We should be finished with that by early, like probably Tuesday, maybe Wednesday at the latest of next week. And then we are going to start building our inventory for the ship, next. I'm going to call it next business day, NBD. So the website is a little discombobulated right now, but you can still order belts. But you'll start to see the shape it's taking with the different tabs. I'm going to change some things around, shorten some names up, but how we're going to do this going forward. And right now we're still we're making our target date of opening back up on 1 October. We'll have a couple new products. And anyway, there'll be more of that to come. Again, like I said, just kind of giving a little bit of time. What do we got? Learn me something. Hey, brother. All right. Learn me something. Thank you, sir. And Big Visk. Moving along. Hopefully you do a relaunch in advance of holidays. Yeah. So no, 1 October. Yeah. So your messages are coming in a little bit behind me, but yeah, no. So we're working our asses off. And just on that note, before I bring in our guest, Ranger Reese, you still down there? Thumbs up. No, I can't hear you, but I can see you. Good to go. Good to go. All right. So we'll be bringing you on in a second. So our guest is standing by, patiently waiting, chomping at the bit to share all of his background and knowledge with you. But yeah, but to Big Visk again, and to everybody, thanks for being patient. I do like how some people have sent me emails saying like, hey, while you guys are on vacation, I'm like, man, I'm working 12, 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I don't know what your version of a vacation is, but damn, I wish I was taking a vacation. That's not a vacation. But anyway, we're having fun. I think you guys are going to really enjoy it. And I think it's going to make it better for some people going forward. And we're already finding some kind of new and creative things that we're going to do. So, all right, last comment before I bring in our guest. A reminder, last video was a giveaway with Murphy. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later when Reese and I are talking. I'm going to probably show off a little bit of gear that might get you to think a little bit differently about hunting season or how to do it. But without further ado, Ranger Reese, you ready, sir? Thumbs up, bro. Thumbs up. Let's bring him up. All right, boys and girls. I don't know how to say, so I'm just going to let him do it. All right, Mr. Sir, tell everybody, who you are, a little bit about yourself. And again, we're going to be sitting and talking about hunting here. That's going to be the episode because it's coursing through my veins right now. And that guy's already been out doing something. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, thanks, Mark, for having me on. And good evening to everyone listening. My name is Steve Reese. Mark and I served in the military together. That's how we became friends. And it's been a number of years since we've seen each other in person, but we talk regularly. And one of our main topics of discussion is hunting in the outdoors. So I'm happy to be here and speak to that this evening. I'm an Illinois guy, grew up in Illinois, hunted here for most of my life. As I said, spent some time in the military, in the 75th Ranger Regiment and other units. Um, yeah, it's hunting. It's almost that time. Like mentioned, the nights are starting to get cooler, and I'm starting to get excited, ready to get out in the woods and get back after them.
And I'm glad you did just mention 75th Ranger Regiment. So just so people know, he's not a forest ranger. He's an actual hardcore badass Army Ranger. So, they're no, and not saying that forest rangers aren't hardcore and badass. I'm just saying he's a little slightly different version of badass. That's all. That's all. Is that a fair assessment there, Ranger?
Absolutely.
Right on, right on, right on. Hey, okay. So hunting, just kind of jumping into it. If you don't mind, let's start off with you. But maybe we should preface it. So boys and girls, I have nothing against rifle hunting. It's just not my thing, right? That's not what I do. If I absolutely really needed it for no shit survival, yeah, I would take advantage of every form of hunting, trapping, snares, I mean, the whole 9 yards, right? Because it's all about protein into my body to help me and my family. But for me, I really enjoyed the joy of archery or bow hunting. So Reese, why don't we kind of maybe bring it over to you, because that's kind of one of the things, besides our backgrounds and, other personal things that we had in common, but it's like, hang on a second, you bow hunt. And then we started talking shit to each other about what type of arrows we were shooting and, velocities and that crap. But you want to just kind of maybe go into like, what it is that you do and maybe even just say why behind it.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm predominantly a bow hunter as well, as you know. I have gun hunted in the past. I would do it again. One of my big things is I learned early on, especially growing up hunting public land, that a large number of people in the woods with guns can be dicey depending on the situation that you find yourself in. Um, Picked up a bow, started shooting arrows, fell in love with it, and I decided that was the path that I predominantly wanted to go down with my, hunting experience. And um, yeah, like I said, absolutely love it, and that's where I still put my passion to this day.
I, I'll just kind of say this, and again, I'm not trying to cause any controversy here with anyone watching. Again, whether you're with us live, and thanks if you are here with us live, or if you watch this later. I'm not picking on gun hunting, and neither is Ranger Reese. But for me, there's just something completely. It's a completely different animal. And I don't mean the animal itself. I mean bow hunting. And now gun hunting, depending where you live, gun hunting can be very similar to bow hunting simply because of you've got limited shooting lanes. Maybe, again, if you're up here in the boreal forest, a lot of gun hunters are looking for power lines and things like that where they've got longer shots. But, depending on what you do, I mean, I could have easily been gun hunting out of my tree stands and because it would have been no different. I mean, those were the shots I had, Reese, I think I said this to you. I think the longest animal I ever harvested yardage wise was, so not meters, but yards, was 42 yards, and that was like the max kind of at my shooting lane right there. So, so I don't think we're poo-pooing gun hunting, but there are definitely, in my humble opinions, there are some differences. And you kind of hit on one, which is bow season. It's not the same number of people out in the woods, and it's a different form of hunting. And so maybe it's a slightly different mentality. And so as a bow hunter, unless I'm on my property where no one else can hunt, I stay out of the woods when it's hunting season and when it's rifle season. Reese, you kind of see where I'm going with that. You want to, or what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely.
Again, we're not slamming
And
rifle hunters. I don't mean it that
no,
way.
not at all. Like I said, I have gun hunted in the past. I would do it again in the future. For me, I would do it under a more controlled environment up on some private land where I know all the hunters and
Yeah.
we all know where we're going to be hunting, where we're going to be shooting. Um, I'm not a big fan of just the free for all, get out in the woods and start shooting, as it is in some places. Other places on public land, it still can be very controlled. Me personally, I like the uh, intimacy, if you will, of bow hunting. I like that interaction with the animals, having them up close and just observing them. That's really what it comes down to for me. It's the looking through an animal through glass, 100 meters away versus, you know, 30 yards and in with a bow. And you get to watch that animal and see what they do in their natural habitat.
Yeah.
It's something about it that I really enjoy.
Yeah. Well, and and again, I don't know a lot, and there are some gun hunters, I'm sure. So again, somebody's gonna like get pissed off about this, so I'm just gonna stop saying it. If you take it the wrong way, that's a rock you put in your rucksack. I didn't put it there, but I have never met a bow hunter who doesn't think about all the environmental considerations and look at wind and knows like how the animals are moving through this part of terrain, or like where are the potential ambush sites, where are the feed sites, where are the bed downs, where would be a good place to do a ground blind or a deer stand. Whereas, let's just be honest, and you're thinking about your scent, you're thinking about your clothing, you're thinking about what type of arrow you're shooting, and all, and your draws, all of that stuff comes into play.
100%.
Whereas, a lot of guys are just grabbing, grandpa's 30-30 and they're just going out into the, well, and look, and let's be honest, there's a lot of guys, even from archery. I've seen this even on, not very often, but even on archery, there's guys who are like, oh, this is just a weekend for me to get away from the family. I really don't care if I harvest a deer. It's all about like barbecuing and getting drunk. And I'm like, no, it's about, I need to harvest a deer because that's venison, that's protein in my refrigerator. That's meat I don't have to pay for the wintertime.
Yeah, absolutely. It provides for you, your family, and there's something special about that. It's easy and convenient to walk into a grocery store and buy meat. It's not so easy to walk into the woods and bring home an animal that you then have to process to feed yourself and your family. And when you do it, you feel a good sense of accomplishment. At least I do. I feel like I have done something great, in the society that we live in nowadays, when convenience is king. To do something that's inconvenient is special.
Well, and it's only inconvenient because of the modern conveniences. So, and I think we all forget about that. And so you just hit on it. So let me just ask you this. So you process all your own animals, correct? You do your own processing. So you're dressing them and the whole 9 yards.
I do. The only thing that I don't do is I'll take my scraps in
Yeah.
to get processed because I don't have a grinder. I don't have that capability currently. But yeah, as far as you know, field dressing, skinning, um, getting the big cuts, the back straps, the inside tenders, roast, cutting steaks, all those things. Yes, I will do all that on my own.
And I think, and so I like that because that's what I've always done from day one. But back to your point, and I did grind once, and like you, I'm just kind of like, well, if I'm going to go do that, I think I would just rather take it to a place. You do like some places are a little cheesy, and they're just taking your scraps or whatever, and they're combining it with somebody else's grinding, and you're not really sure if it's really your animal. But there are some others, and especially if your country, where you can trust that. No, that's your bag. It's got your name on it. It's going to go with 10, 20, 30 pounds of pork sausage, and it's going to be but there are some fly by night kind of cheesy places that'll just throw all this venison together, grind it all up. And you don't know if you're eating, the equivalent of your grandfather. Like, a 16-point buck doesn't taste the same as, a 6-pointer or a 4-pointer or a 4-corn or something like that,
Absolutely.
Well, okay. What about that? Are you trophy guy or you just for the meat?
Um, a bit of both, I would say. I
Well, we just lost Ranger Reese. And I'm here to tell you, one of the reasons we were a little bit late and everything discombobulated because my phone shut down just as we were getting ready to get everything spun up here. So we'll see if Reese comes back on. He just looks like he lost his internet connection. Maybe the archery gods didn't like what he was about to say, and they kind of shut him down. So I'm going to use this just for a quick interjection. Let's see. No, looks like he's coming back. He's trying. His internet is trying. All right. So a reminder. I already mentioned once. And Gene, I blame Biden. I got to put that up there. Hey, you ain't wrong, sir. It probably is that guy's fault. And well, it's at least that administration's fault or something. You can't say the wrong things nowadays. Hey, and I wasn't going to go in there, but hey, a little plug for Millstone. Go back. So again, having just learned how to do the chapters, I'll be going through all the Millstone episodes, assigning them chapters. We're going to start breaking out some of the different sections and making those standalone videos. But hey, if you think this is clickbait or if you think this is hyperbole or tinfoil hat, I don't know what to tell you. Again, that's a rock you're putting in your rucksack, but things are not getting any better, and it isn't going to get better between now and November, and it's not going to get better even whoever you think you want to win in November. We're in big trouble, boys and girls. So this is why this is a great conversation, is being preparedness, like, what happens when there's no more grocery store? Do you even know how to like dress and field dress and process an animal? So that's where we're talking before the archery gods kicked you off the internet there, Reese, because you were
Sorry
saying
about
I'm
that.
a little bit of both, but you were talking about, meat on the table, trophy, kind of a little bit of both. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in a little bit of both camp when it comes to that. I will go out and try to harvest a doe early on in the season, take care of some meat requirements, and then I will spend my time looking for a nice buck that it's still gonna feed my family, and might have a little bit of a head dressing to put on the wall. So
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to either.
Well, and with that head dressing, the rack, the antlers, for me, so I took it was an 8-pointer once. So that was probably about, and it wasn't a huge 8-pointer, but I took that, to your point, Reese, because I wanted a set of antlers to rattle with. And so and just for the record, everybody, with my little stupid injuries, I've been living vicariously through Reese the last couple of years in his hunting experiences, because I just haven't been able to do it. Last year, I was going to go out and an archery hunt, or correction, I had a license and I was able to crossbow hunt the year. I had it the year before, but I couldn't, my mobility was still really messed up. Last year, I had the chance to do it, but then just shit happened. And I just actually only went out and just turkey hunted a couple times, took some grouse instead. But I didn't even actually get a chance to go and deer hunt. But to your point, Reese, so I did take one year, again, still really good meat, really good food, but I wanted that rack because I wanted to practice, rattling. Have you ever done that before, by the way?
I have. I've tried everything in my experience, just growing up and trying to become a better hunter. Over the last couple of years, I've really kind of just tried to focus on being in the right place, making sure that my stands are in the right location for the area that I'm at, to where I'm naturally having these deer funnel to me, as opposed to trying to artificially call them in a certain way. I've had experiences, especially with rattling, where that deer, if they're curious, the first thing they're going to try to do is they're going to try to get downwind of you and come up and see, what is it that's making that rattle? Is it in fact another buck that's come into my territory? And or the other portion of that is as well is rattling is an aggressive sign, and that can make some deer skittish and actually ruin a hunt. So I've tried to just dial back on all of my calling for the most part, to include using scent. I'm all natural, if you would, or trying to be.
Hey, so you just gave me 3 things I want to ask you about. So let's take that last one. Let's go with that all natural and scent and everything. But I want to work backwards to, because that's what we were kind of initially talking about, is knowing your property, knowing the land, knowing how the animals, and that takes work, right? Whether it's trail cams, salt, licks, or just getting out there and spending a lot of time in the woods, looking at how the woods are, knowing how deer, and that's the benefit of archery, right? There's plenty of time I've been in the stand and I've had deer just right below me and I just passed on because it wasn't what I was looking for, or it was still early in the season and my state had stupid rules that year and I wanted to have more time out in the woods. But to your point, you really get to start learning how those animals operate, and that then in turn impacts and affects and gives you more knowledge to be even better at that in the future. So that'll be the thing I want to come back to, because you kind of alluded to it with your property. But let's start off with that all natural. And then I want to all natural calling and then knowing the land properly. And and the animals, I guess, too.
Yeah. So all natural as far as not using any artificial scents to try to lure an animal in. One thing that I kind of thought about, just tried to go through the logical sequence of using hunting scents. If you're setting up your stand locations and you're hunting your property effectively, you are always trying to put yourself in a position where you are not being winded by the animals that you wish to hunt. So to me, I was like,
And just
well,
just real quickly, so if case somebody isn't really familiar with hunting, when you say winded, you are specifically talking about what?
my scent, my human scent being smelled by the animal that I'm trying to harvest.
And wind, because the wind is almost always moving, right? And even when it's a calm day, there's still a scent. It still is picked up. And so in the hunting vernacular, winding, or that deer winded me, it just got your scent, whether the scent was blown to it. Now, as Reese already said, sometimes an animal will move so it is downwind of you, because animals aren't stupid and they can smell and see a lot better. Well, not all of them, but they definitely have way better, some have way better hearing, some have way better eyesight, some have way better smell, some have all of those three things combined. So that's what we're talking about. Animals aren't dumb. They, something's trying to kill some of these animals on a daily basis. So they got to be pretty good if they're going to stay around and stick around for 3-4 seasons, as an animal. Sorry. Yeah. Just because, some people may not know what the hell we were talking about right there. That's all.
Yeah. So one day I was, using a scent lure, a doe estrus or something along those lines. And I just was sitting in my stand and I was thinking about it. I'm like, I'm working to put myself in a position to where I'm not worried about deer being downwind of me in this particular location. So I'm putting this scent up that is blowing downwind of me where I expect there not to be deer. So it's like, why am I wasting the money on this? It's pointless at that point. It doesn't make any sense. So once I kind of put those things together in my head, I was like, well, I guess I don't have to spend money on this any longer.
Well, what about scent lock clothes and at least spraying yourself down?
So that I will say, one thing that I've been doing now for probably the past 5-6 seasons is I've been using ozone as a control measure for my hunting clothing. And I will say that I have found that to be effective in my experience. I have a plastic tote that I will put all my hunting clothes into. I have an ozone generator on the outside of it, and through researching that, it's supposed to kill the just the human scent that lingers on your clothing, and you can smell it. It smells like when you're going to get a good hard rain, just that ozone smell. If you smell it, you'll know exactly what it is. And I will say that has been by far for me the most effective thing for covering any human scent that should be that I would leave behind, whether it's ground scent walking in or any residual from wind. If an animal were to slip behind me, I've watched them. I can see that there's still a reaction, but they don't quite exactly know what it is. It might put them on alert, but more times than not, it hasn't stopped them from going wherever it is that they were planning on going anyhow. So,
well, and in all fairness, it may not have been you that triggered them, right? They may have heard something, and look, the deal, they're flighty, nervous animals half the time. So
yeah.
could have just been them. Hey, I do want to make a little bit of a fun joke. So Ranger Reese just talked about, an ozone filter. So there are ozone devices. So I'll just throw this out there, boys and girls. If you ever have a party at your house, when your spouse is gone or your parents are gone, whatever it is, and you're playing, Texas Hold'em and people are smoking cigars and drinking, and there's going to be a smell that could give you away, right? So kind of the same thing. So there are ozone devices. You can't be in the room when these things are on. Well, I mean, I suppose you can. You do you. I follow those instructions and I go away for 3 hours, but you'll come back and there will not be any of those odors anymore. But to Reese's point, but the telltale is like, hey man, this smells really antiseptically, strangely different in the house now. Like there aren't the normal human smells. It's all gone. So those ozone things are pretty awesome. I used to have one again back in the day, smoking cigars, having people over playing poker. I'm like, okay, I can't live in this. I got to get this shit out of here. And just turn that device on, go away for 3 hours and come back. And you're like, okay, I can do that again a month from now. Like it isn't that bad anymore. So ozone devices. All right. So that's your smell. And, again, scent lock. I do something very similar. I've got, 2 giant plano boxes, PLANO. And I've got my winter hunting gear in one and my earlier season gear in the other one. But I use those dirt wafers. Have you seen those?
I have. Yep. I've used those a ton in the past. And those have been, those were effective for me as well. You literally smell like dirt.
Yeah.
Those are definitely something I've used in the past for sure.
Yeah. So for me, it's just those clothes always stay isolated. They stay in their own boxes. They're always in there with dirt wafers. And, honestly, boys and girls, unless I get them, I'm really wearing the hell out of them, getting lots of blood and stuff on them. I'm only washing them at the end of the season and I'm washing them in a special detergent. So because detergent that's about the extent of what I'm doing. I've kind of like you, I've kind of given up on doing, estrus or, any type of, because I've never had, for me, where I live, I've never had that, even when I, because the rut is usually gun season and I'm just not in the woods for it and I stay away from it. So for me, you're catching mini rut at the end or you're catching, again, just knowing your animal patterns. And that's what I'm really banking on. So I've never really been able to get, because you kind of mentioned, again, they're vigilant animals. They're hyper vigilant, but in the rut, they kind of go crazy. But, so you might get one that comes charging straight in on a scent or a rattle. You might get that in the heat of the rut, but that's one of the times I stay out of the woods, kind of like, you're alluding to, just because there's too many people with guns who, whatever, so I try to avoid. Okay. Now your last one. So we had scent, calling, and so calling and then the setup. Again, the real important thing is what you kind of said a little while ago: knowing your property, knowing the terrain, and knowing the patterns of life of those animals during different times of year and during different environmental considerations. So I'll save my story for that. But so I think you were still kind of at the calling part. So you're not even doing calls at all anymore?
So I do. I do take a grunt tube out with me in the woods every time that I go hunt. I use it sparingly, and I usually will use it if I have a buck and he's moving away from me. I will give a soft grunt, something to get that animal's attention, and then nothing more. I've noticed if you get too aggressive, they're just like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother checking that out. I'm just going to keep on strolling. But if you can give a grunt, get their attention, and maybe they'll take a couple more steps away, and then maybe they'll turn and want to start to investigate sparingly. That's where I'm at with it.
Okay. Well, I wasn't planning this question, but do you use that to set up your shot for your bow? And by that, I mean like freeze or get that animal to just static for a second,
Yeah. I'll just do a quick mouth grunt if I need to. If I need to get that animal to stop. At that point, when they're there, anything, will stop that animal just for that split second in order for you to get that shot through.
And that's where I was going to say, I don't even use, and I've got a really small, and it can be a grunt or a bleat. And I just say, hey, just like that. And then that's that's enough to freeze that animal. Cause I'm already at draw, and I'm like, and you and I have talked about that, and we'll save that for the next, like how long to be at draw. I don't like staying at draw very long. You can rest your cam if you're hunting with, compounds, but at draw, and then hey, and then loose. So
Yeah.
So that's kind of wasn't a trick question, but that's what I was kind of getting at, and I was hoping you'd say like that, something about that. But you don't really need it. You know, just a little something. It's going to freeze that animal. You know, not a crazy like, hey dear, you know, just like, hey, small little noise. Or, you know, you said you do a little grunt of your own, like, or I used to try to practice on doing like a snort, but then it's winter time or it's fall and too much snot would come out. So I gave up trying that.
And that's one of the more aggressive calls too. You know, that's inviting, you know, a territorial fight, something along those lines. And, you know, even the biggest buck in the woods might hear that and say, you know what, today's not my day for a fight.
Yeah. I already got my girl. She's bed down. I've got 2 of them, you know, they're over there in the, I'm sorry, the friggin' VA. I'll get to that later, but I can't take the call right now. Talking to you. You know, and that's a horrible thing, boys and girls. It's like the DMV. You know, when you finally get a human on the phone, you can't pass it up. But we are live right now, and there it is. VA Med Center calling me at 17:30. Yeah. Anywho, but no. Where the hell was I going with that? Until that, I just got distracted. What the hell? Where was I? Where was I going with that whole thing? Just before that phone call came in.
Oh, we were just talking. Just the small sounds, just to stop that animal and set up your shots.
Yeah. And well, I don't know but the point I guess this was being is like, you know, you're talking about that animal hears you being aggressive grunt and make that aggressive grunt and goes away because to your, you know, I just wanted to back up your point. That buck may have already satisfies its urge, or maybe that buck, you know, again, is it, you know, the main rut? Is it little rut? Maybe it already has 2 does in the tag elders bedded down already, you know, and it's like, I'm not going to go deal with him. I've got 2 girls over there and I'm, you know, so I don't know. But so to me, and I kind of like how you said that because I've really, really toned down on the calls over the last couple, you know, of the last couple of years I was able to hunt before my injury started happening. So, and I'm knock on wood, we'll be able to get back out to this year. So yeah, I don't know if I'm really going to do much of the calls. I think, and then kind of using that as a great segue into the last thing you talked about, which is really just more about knowing the animals, the property, because not every property is going to be, you know, some properties transit, some is food, some is bed down. You want to add a little bit more to that from your experience? Because you hunt a couple different pieces of property. Maybe do both of those things right there.
I do. So in Illinois, where I live, I predominantly hunt public land. And then I also have a private property that I'm allowed to hunt in southwest Wisconsin. And that property, private land, it's magnificent. It's just picturesque, big deer, big ag fields. It's everything you'd ever wish for in a hunting property. And it's set up. You know, we've got all of our stands dialed in. We know the deer movement. We know where they're bedding, where they're going to feed. And it's just a matter of the hardest thing we have is really picking the best spot for the day and the conditions. Now, hunting private or hunting public land is really that's a different story. That changes, you know, not from year to year, but from hunt to hunt, because it's not a controlled environment. You don't know what has happened over the last, you know, however long it's been since you've been there last. You know, was there another hunter that was in a tree adjacent to yours and left behind a bunch of scent, or maybe they harvested a deer in an area that you were hunting and you don't know that, and you know, that's got the deer skittish and spooked for the next couple of days. So it's always
and just to add to that, and maybe he didn't even harvest the deer. Maybe he just spooked deer, and now the deer like, hey, now I've got to be starting to look up in the trees like this is the, you know, Vietnam or some shit, you know.
Yeah,
and that can happen too. So just on that point, and a stupid little story, and I'll see if Reese backs me up or calls me stupid, but I think this goes to his point. This is what you don't know about public land, but even on private land, your own land, there's been times, you know, and I've got my own personal thing about when I like going out, you know, and a lot of it has to do with weather and what I'm trying to accomplish. But there's been times where like I've had animals around me, like, they were right underneath me. I wasn't going to harvest them. They're taking their time. They're grazing. I know they're moving north to their bed down, but they're taking their time. And I just had to sit there until way after dark and just let those animals clear before I even came down and try to make it out of the woods. Does that kind of also coincide with what you're kind of talking about? Like, this is some of the problems with public, because you don't know what somebody's done and how the deer in that environment are now conditioned.
Oh, 100%. Those are always factors that you have to take in consideration when you step into the woods to hunt anything, really. What impact are you leaving behind for the next time you're going to go hunt? What is your access in the mornings, in the afternoons? What's your exfil plan going to look like?
Yeah.
Especially when you have a bunch of animals around you. Are you going to get down, spook them, and just trot on out, or are you going to sit there and you're going to wait for those animals to clear before you get down and make your exit? It's really just
And you have an alternate route because maybe they're moving on your exfil route. So you might
Yeah.
have to do an alternate route and start boxing around or doing something else, or hey, I know I said I'd meet you at this place, but I'm going to head over to the hardball and you guys pick me up near the intersection of whatever and whatever, instead.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't go out the normal way because there was a bunch of deer there and I didn't want to spook them.
Absolutely.
At
the end of your hunt, you need to be planning for your next hunt.
Yeah. And that's not a small thing right there. I mean, you start spooking those animals, you'll start conditioning them. You might even actually lose, like, hey, the deer, like, this is a great trail, but it isn't a great trail if there's humans and wolves on it all the time trying to kill them. They'll find another way around it, right? I mean,
100% they will.
You would hope they would, right? I mean, I know they're animals, but hey, honey, let's go down that trail. Hey, didn't we lose my sister, your brother, and two of our children there, in the last couple of weeks? Didn't, like, every time we go down that trail, we get attacked by wolves. It'll be fine. Let's just keep doing it. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not 100% sure about that. Hey, okay, so let's keep talking about the property and knowing your terrain. Now I don't, because I have a new phone now, and I haven't uploaded the app again because I just haven't been able to really get out there and do it as much. But do you use an app for any of your hunting? Again, just for that reconnaissance, that intelligence portion before you even go out, do you have any apps that you rely on at all?
I do. I used two predominantly. Onyx, I use that for just plotting all of my stand locations. Me and my best friend that I hunt with up in Wisconsin, we have all of our primary infill and exfil routes planned, down to if we are going to drive a truck or a UTV to get to a certain location on the farm, like where that vehicle will be stopped at, where we will park it, and we will start, our walk in. We have all of that stuff plotted out. And we use Onyx for that, and that's worked out great for us because the property in Wisconsin, we have about 1,200 acres to hunt, and we manage about 40 stands in the woods. So there's a lot of data that you can't just remember. And
Yeah.
So having it all mapped in a certain location has been a great benefit to us.
All right, I'm going to put this up as a banner. See it right there?
I do. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So that's right. I spelled it right. I think that was what
Yep.
I was using back in the day too. Yep. Yeah. So, and correct me if I'm wrong. Well, maybe it's changed, but it was free back then. I mean, and it was just kind of like Google Earth, but you had all the ability. You really just got a good view of the property. They had range estimation things on it. They had wind calculations, weather report, all that kind of crap. And you could, like, this is where, and whether you nicknamed your stands or just gave them numbers, but you could then plot, I'm here, ground blind 1, ground blind 2, deer stand 1, deer stand, whatever it is, 2-man stand, right? Is it still the same?
It is. And the other good use for it too is for going in the morning as well. I try to go in dark. If I use light, it is a small single bulb red pinch light just to kind of get my bearings. And then, especially if you're going through the woods and you don't have a real good defined trail and you're, going down somewhere deep to get up in a stand, you can pop up the Onyx. It shows where you are located. So then you can kind of just get your bearing real quick. Okay, I'm looking for this stand and it is, to my left, 100 yards. And you can, just like I said, get your bearing and start moving towards that, as opposed to getting out white light and, big light shining through the woods, like, spotlight. That's never a good plan. That can ruin a hunt real quick as well.
Well, and I know some people whose philosophy was, well, I go in super early and I don't care. And I'm not worried about noise. I'm not worried about this. And I'm white lighting my way in. I'm like, dude, they're bedded down. That they may still be feeding. I've never understood that. I mean, do you have any logic or reason behind that? Because that's not what I interpret, like how you do it either.
Yeah, it's you have to be quiet. You have to not alert the animals around you. So if you can go in, if you can walk quietly through the dark and get into a stand, you're going to be much better off, as opposed to white lights and letting that whole ridge know that you're walking down it.
The only time, and so this is kind of a story about knowing your property and knowing how the weather conditions and knowing what the animals are doing. The only times I've kind of, like, if you want to say, like, did a bull rush or like beat feet, so to speak, double timed, most Ricky tick, is just remember this probably happened 2 or 3 different times in the first couple of years where I the barometric pressure's changing. It's just getting ready to snow. And I know the animals because, I was more of a transitory and a little bit of bed down. And I knew they were going, coming from feed to another feed / bed down, and I just saw that pressure change. I'm like, oh, they're going to be moving from south to north right now. Oh, I'm going to go down to my central stand. I've got like 45 minutes to get there because I think in about an hour to 2 hours, that's when I'm going to get this transitory movement. And then I would beat feet. And then I'd be like hustling, getting my shit on, getting down there, and then getting in the stand, taking a breath, letting everything calm down. And then sure as shit, like 45 minutes, here's 2 does coming up behind me, through my shooting lane. So,
yeah.
I mean,
and like you said, you knew your property. So you knew what those deer were going to do. So that was a good, risk to take at that particular time, for sure.
Well, okay. So just a little bit more about the private and the public where you hunt, because public, you may not be able to do that and execute that as well, right? That's going to be, sounds to me like that's something that you got to plan out a little bit more. That's more of a dedicated type of, hey, on Sunday, I'm going to go do this, as opposed to, right? Do you want to talk that piece through just a tad more for everybody?
Yeah. Especially with technology that we have now, where you can pull up a satellite image of anywhere in the world. You have apps like Onyx, and you can see the terrain, especially if you're hunting in a place that has some ups and downs, some elevation to it. You can start to use that map reconnaissance to say, okay, this is an area that I'm going to target, and start your search from there. The biggest thing that I've noticed is most people are not too adventurous when it comes to hunting public land. They are not going to go too far from main parking areas. So if you're willing to go that extra little bit and push yourself to those spots that others will not, it usually pays off in the end. You'll see animals, you'll harvest animals, and that's kind of where I start when I look at a piece of public land property, is where are most people not going to go? That's where I'll start looking. And then from there, I look at that terrain and I say, okay, where are the food sources? Where are the bedding sources? And if it meets criteria that I have set, that looks like a place that would hold deer, that's where I'm going to go and set up and have a hunt. And that has been, it doesn't work every time. You're not going to go out and you're not going to harvest an animal every time you go out, but I'm seeing deer more times than not. So to me, that's a measure of success for sure.
And, and from the bow, and again, see, I'm not even going to say it. Rifle hunter, if you think this pisses you off, then I'm, that's a rock you're putting in your rucksack, last time. But and I'm sure there's a ton of rifle hunters who would agree with what we're saying. Getting out there, knowing that terrain, knowing what you just said. Yeah, not every time is a success. Now, and so maybe that's different for, the gun hunters. I just realized it because they've got that short window, and they maybe have that one tag or two, whatever your state does with your tags, and so maybe them, it's a little bit more of, there's a little bit more pressure, right? And maybe that's why you hear stories about people being assholes on public during gun season and all that. Whereas a bow hunter, you've got, Minnesota mid-September until, the December 30th, you till the end of the year, right? You've got a long time to get out there and experience it and be smart and harvest the animals we want, especially if you have the chance and what's on your property. Like, so for me, the state of Minnesota would say, well, hey, you can only have it was always just stupid, arbitrary rules. Like on this other side of this blacktop, you can harvest intensive. Gosh, I can't remember what it's called, but you can harvest up to 5 animals. But on the other side of the blacktop, because deer don't walk across the blacktop, it's only hunter's choice, or it's only buck only type of thing, which has made no sense. Where I'm like, no, I've got so many does on my property. I really need to harvest at least 1, if not 2 does, and then maybe look at like a little forkhorn, because I've got 2 just virulent bucks that are coming through my 40 acres, and they're, and again, and kind of back to what we're talking about, I'm not looking to harvest those guys. I want them to keep producing, more and more of their gene pool. But there's way too many does, right? So that's what I'm going to use for food on my table that day. So do you want to maybe add a little bit to that, or did that kind of help you go in a direction where you want to go?
Yeah. I would say it's all about just putting in the work. That's really what it comes down to. You have to, and in the places that you're able to, a lot of that work is going to come in the off season. If you're able to go on a piece of public land and you're able to scout and try to identify some potential areas that you want to, check out in the coming fall, and go and get some setups ready and see what's actually out there, and then process of elimination from there. Generally,
but I like what you said about that preseason. That's kind of what I was fishing for. That preseason if it's not your property, you still got to get out there and find ways to really put in the work, as you said, and learn what's happening in that area where you're thinking you're going to hunt. You got to learn what the patterns are and how the animals are going to react. And the only way you do that is so I don't know, cameras. There's a lot of people with technology today. There's even cameras that work off of GSM, like your cell phone. So you don't even have to go out there and pull a card anymore. And then, and look at the card. You can actually just log into your camera and see what you're getting. Now, those are more expensive, but it does save you a lot of time and trouble, right? And you're not going out there and spooking and doing all that kind of crap. So what are your kind of thoughts on that? I think you guys used that for a while, didn't you?
We do. Yeah. We have cellular cameras on the private property in Wisconsin, and it's been a huge benefit for us. Like you kind of mentioned, it cuts down on the amount of time that you have to be in the woods. So I know I just said, you need to get out there and scout and see the land, but there does come a point where that can be a detriment as well.
Well, but you don't know where to place that camera unless you get out there and scout and see the land. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
I try to do most of my preseason scouting earlier in the year. I'll go in the spring. It does 2 things. It gives you a lot of time before the next opening of bow season, and you're still looking at the land in the conditions that you will find it in come next fall. So
lack of leaves, not as much vegetation. Yeah,
exactly.
A lot of stuff on the ground. Exactly, sir.
Yep. And then, if you have the ability to get cellular cameras and get them out in a place where they work, that was definitely a great tool to have. There's nothing better than opening up your email when you're sitting at work and, seeing a target buck, or just seeing a bunch of deer pictures just come through in the middle of the day when you're like, you know what? I'm working. This ain't great, but damn, there's a lot of deer out moving right now.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, season can't get here soon enough, man. Season can't get here
Absolutely.
soon enough. Got to keep working. Hey, we got a couple comments that have come in. Let me just kind of read these and get caught up. Yeah, we have 50 minutes. Yeah, we're doing good. We'll wrap it up here in a little bit. But so here's some comments that came in. Big Visk. In my youth, I hunted a huge public swamp or huge tract of public land. So, as Reese is talking about, and he and I have talked about this numerous times, I've been really lucky where I've not had to do that. And I don't know how well I would adjust to that just for some of the reasons we've talked about. But yeah, that's what you got, but if I had to hunt land, I would definitely take Reese's advice, and I would, like you said, that huge tract or that public swamp, but I would get as far away from like the drop off points, the main intersections. And it kind of has a little bit to do with, a lot of hunters, and because they're humans and humans are lazy. But then Big Visk's second comment is I'd hike in real far, sometimes, and this is what you were saying, Reese, sometimes across rivers, and I'd be successful. But this is where I kind of wanted to come back to you. But man, it was a lot of work getting those deer out. Well, there are different techniques. In some states, you can't even use your ATV or any type of motorized vehicle until after dark. So are you dragging it? Do you have the strength to do it? Do you have like a little, what were those little medical, not litters, but those little medical skid? What do we call those things? They're kind of
Skidcoes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have something like that? Are you thinking about maybe quartering, getting your straps, and all that kind of stuff out, and you're going to do trips? Do you want to talk to that real quickly before I keep going?
Yeah. So I use on public land that I hunt in Illinois, my walk in on the public land that I'm hunting in Illinois is about 1.75 miles in to get to the area that I've been hunting over the last couple of seasons. It's been a very, very successful area, but a long walk, even longer walk when you have an animal that you've harvested to get it back to your truck. One thing that I'll use an ice fishing sled, load the deer into that, and I'll drag it that way. Seen other folks use the wheeled carts. Those look like they'd be pretty handy as well. I've never tried one myself. But yeah, it absolutely right to your guest that commented. It is a lot of work. It takes a lot of dedication to, after the shot, for sure.
Yeah, and then you either have to have cell phone coverage or you have to have radios, because maybe you just you loosed an arrow, the deer's like maybe 50 yards away, you're giving it some time, it's bleeding out or it's already dead. And then, so are you walking all the way back out, getting that gear? Or you have a buddy who you can call and he comes in and you've got your trail flagged, and then he comes in with the gear, helps you process and harvest out. But you got to think about that stuff, because I've known some really shitty people who've, I shot at it, but I don't think I got it. And then they just go back drinking, and there's a dead animal on my aunt's property, and it's like,
Yeah,
you're like sons of bitches,
I will say, after this is probably, this will be my 6th season, going into my 6th or 7th season where I'll be hunting the private land in Wisconsin. It has made it difficult to make those decisions on private land of, for example, harvesting a doe. On the private land, I can shoot a doe. We can go back to our hunting shed. We can grab side by side. We can drive out to the field or down into the woods, whatever, load it right up, take it, field dress it, and bring it back to a walk-in cooler. It has spoiled me. So every once in a while, I have to check myself. This past season, I shot a doe on that public land parcel I was talking about with the 1.75 mile walk in, and yeah, I put in that work. Shot the doe, texted my wife, said, "Hey, I got a doe down. I'll see you in about 8 hours, probably."
8 hours. I was going to say 6 to 8 hours. I'll see you tomorrow, honey. Well, and that even begs the question of like that. And depending on that, I could see where you might even just be prepared to, like, yeah, I'm going to camp inside my vehicle or outside my vehicle tonight because I've got a lot of work to do now. I mean, the work, it's just like, cutting your own firewood. I mean, there's a lot of work. I mean, and the work ain't done when the tree is on the ground or the animal's on the ground. That's when
Yeah.
the real work starts,
Well, and it's a factor. It's a factor for me when I go out and hunt, is when I'm sitting in my tree and I've got, deer around me and I'm making that decision. I'm going through that decision-making process to harvest an animal. I ask myself, are you ready? Are you ready to do this work?
Yeah.
If I'm not, then I won't shoot, but if I'm ready to put in that work, then yeah, let's do it.
That little noise of like that little, hey, to freeze the animal. That is my final commitment to what you're kind of saying. I mean, like, well, drawing, but it's like it's same thing that's going through your head, but that's your last, like, dude, you're going to freeze that arrow and loose. Okay. Your brain, even if you're not thinking about it, it's like, and here we go.
Yeah.
I wonder if my buddy's off of work now.
Yeah. I've been in that situation before where I've been in a new place, a lot of steep ravines. And I found myself and I was like, you know what? I think if I see the biggest buck that I've ever seen in my entire life, I don't think I'd shoot it right now.
Because this is going to suck.
Yeah. Because, I didn't bring, a Western hunt style backpack to go ahead and quarter this animal and load it up and carry it out in multiple trips.
Well, and then so that is kind of funny. Just on that, because of my, a lot of my physical things that have happened until that really improves. So last year, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm not dragging it. I'm just quartering it. And, because that would have been more manageable pieces weight wise for me. Now I was lucky it was private, and I wouldn't have had to gone, but I didn't have the back. My back had gone out, my hip, I was like, yeah, there's no friggin' way. Even if it's like, a 2.5-year-old deer. I mean, I'm like, that's just too much weight. I won't be able to drag that animal out. I'm going to have to, quarter it. So that's just another great thing there for people to, because I don't think a lot of people remember that or think about it unless you're like a out West kind of like elk hunter, like quarter that thing out and pack it out. That's what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's still work. You got to put in the work.
It's still a lot of work.
Damn right. But it is something joyful of knowing that, that symbiotic relation, you and nature, everything culminated, brought you to this thing. You did everything right. Yeah. The wind, all the things we've talked about. And now there's this animal and you're just going to be enjoying some really tasty venison, meat in your protein in your freezer that you provided for you and your family. You're going to do all the processing. It is unbelievable in my humble opinion. I mean, it's one of the greatest things I think that's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the sense of accomplishment that comes along with it and the skills that you can learn from it. From breaking down and processing an animal to, trying to tan a hide if you want to.
Yep.
I tried to do that this past season. Never done it before. It was like, you know what? I want to give that a shot. Hell, that's a lot of work too, but it's just something else to add to your skill set.
Yeah. No, there's one comment that came in. I'll get to in a second, but if you saw me laughing, I wasn't laughing at you. It was kind of to our story. But VTech Moonwalker, I'm sure you heard everything we were talking about, and I know you're joking. I see the laugh, but here, let me just get caught up in that. John, hey, John, thanks for joining. He said, I just got off work. Glad I could catch you guys. Hey, thanks for getting off work. Hopefully you're having an adult beverage, John. Big Visk. And then this was kind of going back to it. And then that's kind of where we just went in this conversation. I'd seen his comment come in. He, basically same as what we're talking about. He's done the whole, the whole full spectrum, drug him out, quartered, carded, still a PETA. I've done it all, drug it out, quartered up, carded out. I'm not with that PETA. I don't know if that's like what I don't know. Still, anyway, Big Visk. But yeah, you've done it all. I don't know what still a PETA means, but maybe that's an acronym. But then I just got to show this because, That's what I threw. I knew it was going to be an acronym. Big Vis just came in. PETA, pain in the ass. All right. I hadn't heard that before. Thanks for educating us, Big Vis. But then you got VTech Moonwalker. I do all my hunting at local grocery store. It's amazing. The animal's already dead. You know, VTech, I know you're joking because I know you're big into nature too, especially with like, you know, a lot of the photos and stuff. And, you know, and that's the other great thing about hunting too. You know, we've already kind of talked about, I don't know if you were here for the whole conversation, but there's so much joy in just like, you know, being out there, and more often than not, you're not even actually harvesting an animal, but you're out there in the middle of their environment and they don't know it, and you get to see them in in their natural environment and get to look at them and study them and learn more. And that's really cool too. You know, and it's not a PETA like Big Vis. Thank you. I'm going to put that in my hip pocket. Seriously, man, what a PETA. People are like, what? You're having pita bread? No, what a pain in the ass. I never heard that before. Honestly, I didn't know what that was. Thank you, Big Vis.
You know,
Hey,
I think it's worth mentioning too, you know,
go ahead.
When it comes to hunting, you know, there's a lot of people in the world that find it to be some cruel, brutish exercise in, you know, just an old way of doing things.
Hey, I'll just say it before you go any further. Those people are fucking idiots. No, seriously. Those people have never, you know, and I'm not saying this about VTech Moonwalker. I get the joke and everything, but there's people like, why would you ever do that? There's grocery stores. I'm like, do you know how fucking grocery store food is processed? Like, sorry, Reese, you continue, but yeah, go ahead.
You know, I'm not saying anything that any other hunter doesn't know, but there's nobody that cherishes the animal being hunted more than the hunter. And it is conservation, you know,
Damn
it
right.
is to help that species, you know. All things in this world are going to die. And if hunting helps regulate the population so that the species as a whole can have a better, thriving life out in the wild, then to me, that's a good thing.
That goes into my little crude comments earlier. You know, the Minnesota Department of Natural DNR. Well, it's, you know, it's intensive harvest on, you know, 5 animals on, you know, on this side of the blacktop, but you know, I'm only 80 acres away, and they're like saying you can only, it's, you know, it's buck only. Like, you guys don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. You know, like, you know, like you don't know how these animals move. So I love how you said that, because I really agree, and I know that's how we really gelled, you know, on the hunting side. Because it isn't like, oh, I'm going out there and I'm a tough guy and I'm killing an animal. It's conservationist, right? And, you know, to conserve that species, to conserve that environment. And I would actually, you know, throw down, you know, and I don't mean fight, but I mean, I would throw down from an argument perspective that the hunting community, those of us who are serious and take it, you know, and really appreciate it, we're more of, you know, environmentalists and tree huggers than the quote unquote environmentalists and tree huggers. We know way more about those populations and land management. And just to that point right there, Gene kind of chimed in. He goes, and this is about our conversation. In my eyes, hunting, I'm sure that's what he meant. You know, in my eyes, hunting, it's true land management.
100%. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then just to add, we're going into it. So VTech, and this is what we're talking about. There are ass wipes out there who waste animals all the time. I've unfortunately experienced 1 or 2 of them just since I've been back in Minnesota. What I've been back now for 12 years. So yeah, but to your point, VTech, but there's ass wipes in society, you know, and, you know, there are some ass wipe hunters, but there's a lot more there's a lot of ass wipes, you know, like there's a lot of assholes, period, you know, so, you know, and some of them just happen to be hunters, and some of them happen to be Democrats, and some happen to be Republicans, and some happen to be this, and some happen to be that. So yeah, I mean, we're just never going to really get away from that unless we can, like, you know, educate people and call people out for the bullshit. And I've done that before. I got that from my dad as a young kid. I think I was 13 or 14, and we were grouse hunting. So, you know, I had a 410, but it was also, there were some guys but we were on property and areas where we knew we didn't actually anticipate running into some deer hunters. They didn't even have orange on or anything. And my dad lit those guys up, and he was like, you bleepity bleeps better just head down the trail, and you better be, you know, making all the noise in the world. You shouldn't be out here. You are the ones who are giving everybody a bad name. So yeah, you know, VTech, you know, yeah. VTech. All right. You just add in there. Yes, he works with a lot of them. So, yeah, I know. I work with a lot of asswipes. And then we've got Gene asswipe Hunter Biden. Well, yeah, I don't know if that's quite well. Yeah, he is an asswipe, but I was trying to see if I could come up with a quick joke about his drug habits. But all right, VTech, he's saying he's got to go. Hey, thank you for joining us, VTech. Thanks for the comments. Really appreciate it, sir. Keep taking those awesome photos. I'm not joking. I might post one myself. I had a yellow finch on one of my feeders, and my phone camera doesn't do as good of a job as yours, but keep it up, my good man. Thank you for joining us. All right, Ranger Reese, we're at an hour 5. I know you got shit to do. We try to keep these in an hour. I was going to show off a little bit of my gear that I use for bow hunting. Whatever. Forget that. How about I actually remind everybody about our charity auction before we give Ranger Reese final comments and the outro. So last live stream, Murph and I, so two things, and maybe this got confusing. We are going to do a charity auction going forward for these young Marines who are trying to get to Pearl Harbor for Pearl Harbor ceremonies this year. That's a separate event working through that group. But then Murph and I did a giveaway. So the giveaway was one of our Babs. So this actually has a shoulder strap. I just got it tucked inside, but we made this one extra, call it a mistake. There's nothing wrong with it. We just didn't need to make it. So mistake on our part. So we're going to give this away. Murph is going to give 2 pounds. So go back to that last live stream, because we only have one person right now who's talked about. So the contest was, tell us your best cup of coffee. And then, so this conversation with Reese right now, hunting, like being out in the woods, being out in nature, autumn, winter, coffee, just, there's great times to have coffee there. So the whole thing was, tell us a story, leave a comment on the last video or tag us on Instagram, and tell us the story. What was your best cup of coffee? And then obviously we're going to pick it, but you got to give us a comment. Otherwise we won't know. But so it was a Babs. And again, that's a shoulder strap, outside slip pocket, inside slip pocket. And then Murph is going to donate 2 pounds of coffee. He's got a buddy who does, makes like really great coffee. And then these just showed up today. So this one is mine. This one will be for the winner. It's still in this packaging, but this is that Glass Beach mug. There's the bottom of it. So it's based off of a mug, and it's a great freaking story. And I'm here to tell you, this thing has weight. This is easily a pound. I'd have to look at, but this thing is already feels indestructible. I can't wait to have a cup of coffee in the morning. Yeah, this thing is kick ass. There is a little hologram sticker that comes on them with the USMC logo. I took it off, and I'll just tell you right now, I kind of got a little upset. I was able to get the sticker off, but I hate companies that put stickers on items, and then there's always that residue. So I took a little Gooby Gone, and that wasn't kind of working. I'm like, gosh, dang it. And then I just washed it with soap and water in the sink, and it came off perfectly. So, these guys are a lot smarter than me. It was designed to just come off with soap and water and the Gooby Gone. But I'm here to tell you, these things, this is friggin' money. So you get, because we're doing a cup of coffee. So you get this kick-ass cup, 2 pounds of the coffee from Murph, and then you get a Babs, because we just made one and we want to give it away because it seems like a nice thing to do. And for that record, depending on what kind of hunting you're doing, throw this over your shoulder, throw a sandwich and some 410 or some 12 gauge in there, and walk that with you when you're bird hunting. I mean, I don't know. You do you. But these things, Reese, I'm here to tell you, these things are pretty badass. Glass Beach mugs. I'm going to put it up here for everybody to see. Go back and see the last. It is not fragile. This thing is like, it's solid. It is solid. Totally impressed. Glass Beach mugs, you guys kick ass. Gene, I just got to throw this out there. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, Gene, but right now you're going to be winner chicken dinner, because no one else has said anything. No one else is. So by default, you're going to win, whether your story is great or not, Gene. So, hey, boys and girls, if you want in on it, a free Babs, 2 pounds of coffee from Murph and his buddy. And then I'm going to send, well, again, this one's mine, but here's the winner in this one. Go back and see that last video, see the giveaway, the rules, kind of how we did it. And on that note right there, Ranger Reese, thank you so much for taking your time and being here. give you final comments. What do you got to say? Hunting, whatever you want to talk about. Take us away here, my good man.
Well, first, Mark, thank you for the opportunity to come on. It's been a great time. I love talking hunting.
Well, and
We always
I'm also
do.
just on a personal note. We talk, but I just like, I know this sounds stupid, but just seeing your face in video, you're looking good, dude. You're kicking ass. So it's nice seeing you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. We speak on the phone regularly, but I don't think we've actually seen each other in a number of years now. So this is a good catch up for sure.
Yeah,
I do appreciate.
I was trying to admit it. You like the beard, don't you? You're a little
it looks good on you. I like it. And to everybody that's listening, thank you. Appreciate you guys tuning in to us and listening to a couple old friends talk, and just get out in the woods and experience what nature has to offer. It's a beautiful thing.
Damn right. That was perfect. Hey, thank you so much again. Everybody take your hat off to Mr. Reese, Ranger Reese. Pour a drink in his honor, tonight over the weekend, and just listen to some of the things. We're not sitting there trying to say we're the world's greatest hunters, whatever, but there's a lot of knowledge and there's a lot of common sense in there. And hopefully we said some things and made you think about it a little differently, or maybe got you interested in what, I'm going to try grouse hunting this year, or maybe I'm going to try fishing, or maybe I am going to, maybe I'm going to get a bull, a recurve, a compound. And see, we didn't get into all those details. There's a lot of information. Gosh, this is the weird stuff we sit and talk about. Again, he was giving me shit about the arrows he was shooting one year, and his feet per second he was getting out of them. I'm like, and then that was kind of like, well, is his bow better than mine? But my bow is, it was, there was some shit talking. So that's the other fun part about it. But learn me something, saying thanks to you, Ranger Reese, for coming on. Thanks. Learn me something. Thanks for being here. And then Gene from across the pond. Thanks for the stories and great information tonight. And then he's saying, hopefully you'll come back on again, Mr. Reese. And I agree with him. Hopefully you'll come back on and we'll tell some more stories as the hunting season progresses.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, so Reese, I'm going to do the goodbye. Hang on 1 second. So when I end this, we'll still be here. Just give me a second. Don't just click out. All right, everybody, you know the deal. If you got questions, reach out. I say it all the time and I mean it all the time. Just don't call me at 6 a.m. or 3 a.m. and yell at me. Then it's kind of like, oh, that's not fair. That's pretty fucked up. Hey, go back. Don't forget, we got a giveaway going Saturday, the 24th. I'm pretty sure that's Saturday, the 24th. Yep. Yeah. Saturday is the giveaway day. So there's only a handful of days left. Go back to that video, follow the rules. Tell us about your greatest cup of coffee. I'm sure, Reese, you might want to enter into it too. Hey, you could be a contestant. And I know you've got some good stories about what your favorite cup of coffee was.
I'll come up with some.
Yeah, right. Snowshoe Dave saying thanks. Hey, Snowshoe, thanks for being here tonight and hanging out and watching and hanging out with us. Reach out, everybody. Got the contest going on. We're going to do another live on Saturday to announce the contest winner, and which right now is Gene. So Gene, if you can break everybody's internet, you are winner chicken dinner, sir. All right. And hopefully we do get Reese back on again. He's got all kinds of great knowledge and we just barely even talked about the tip of the iceberg here tonight. So thanks for everybody for watching. We'll see you on Saturday at, the announcement was in the live stream. I think it's 10 o'clock. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock Central Daylight Time on Saturday, the 24th of August. That's the giveaway. So we'll see you guys there. And if not, then we'll see you. Oh, my last comment. If you didn't watch this live, and if you watch it on demand, you're going to want to be here next Thursday. I'm just here to tell you, Centerline, I'm still a human being. And next Thursday is going to be probably really spicy. And it's something very dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about healthcare for veterans. And you just saw that from earlier tonight. So just stay tuned. We're going to have 2 guests next Thursday. And we're going to be talking about healthcare for veterans and the state of that, the despicable state of affairs that is the Department of Veteran Affairs in the United States of America today. So, all right, that was maybe too serious. Reese, give me a joke because I got a little too serious there at the end. Give me something good to go on. Come on, tell us something funny.
Well, I'm on the spot. I got nothing. Sorry.
All right. Under pressure. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. You know the deal. Keep thinking, keep moving, never, never quit. All right. We'll see you guys on Saturday and then next Thursday. All right, everybody, be good.